Welcome to Lesson 6 for Day 28. Today we are going to be doing a language dive using a complex text. Before we begin, make sure that you have read the text Real Lives Angola, Africa, and watch the videos from Day 23, 24, and 26 before you watch this video. Our learning targets for today are: I can understand and practice using complex English language structures. I can use linking words and phrases to connect opinion and reason. I can explain the literal and non-literal meanings of words and phrases. How would you rate your mastery of these targets right now? Give a thumbs up, thumbs to the middle, or a thumbs down. Great job. We'll come back to these learning targets at the end of the lesson. I hope by then you'll be able to rate yourself a thumbs up on all 3 targets. For this lesson, you will need a pencil and notebook paper. We're going to start our language dive by reading this sentence from the text Real Lives Angola, Africa. As a result, diarrhea rates dropped almost to zero. Child deaths plummeted, and many girls who no longer had to spend hours every day carrying water entered school for the first time. Now it's your turn. Read the sentence out loud. Great job reading. What is the gist of this sentence? Remember, a gist is your first thoughts about what the sentence might be about. Write your thinking on notebook paper. Pause the video until you're done writing. Let's look at our first chunk of the sentence. As a result. Can you figure out why the author wrote the phrase as a result? That's right. As a result is a consequence or effect of something that has happened before. What do you think the result or consequence of the information in the sentence was? Let's look back in the text. We can reread the sentences that came before the phrase as a result. In 2000, the Angolan government and UNICEF teamed up to lay a pipeline from the river to the community at Mabuya. Latrines, wash basins, taps, and showers were then built, together with a filtering system to ensure every drop of water was drinkable. Now that we've looked back in the text, what do you think the result or consequence of the information in the sentence was? Pause the video while you write down your thinking on notebook paper. That's right. The result was that girls could go to school. There is more than one right answer, so don't worry if you had something different. What words could the author use in place of as a result? Pause the video while you write down your thinking on your notebook paper. Great job. Some of the words I came up with were therefore, consequently, and accordingly. Accordingly, diarrhea rates dropped almost to zero. The meaning doesn't change at all. Let's look at our next chunk. Diarrhea rates dropped almost to zero. We're going to look at this chunk in 2 parts. Diarrhea rates and dropped to almost zero. Diarrhea rates. What is this chunk about? Diarrhea rates refers to the amount of people who had diarrhea in Mabuya because of drinking polluted water. This is a noun phrase that refers to a thing. The word rates refers to a number. Now let's look at dropped almost to zero. What is this chunk about? What happened to the diarrhea rates? That's right. Almost no one in Mambuya had diarrhea after they had drinkable water. No one got sick from the water. This is a verb phrase explaining an action that was taken by the rates or number of people. Can you figure out why the author wrote dropped? What does the word dropped mean here? Dropped literally means to fall straight down. Here, the author uses dropped in a figurative way to help us realize that diarrhea rates were extremely high and immediately went to almost zero. You can visualize what this would look like on a line graph of diarrhea rates. Look how the diarrhea rate dropped to almost zero in 2000 when clean water became available. How would the meaning of this chunk change if dropped were replaced with lowered? The word lowered has a similar meaning, though it could mean that the diarrhea rates decreased slower over time. Visualize the difference using the updated line graph. The blue line shows dropped rates. The gray line shows lower rates. The meaning is similar, but not exactly the same. Let's look at the next chunk. Child deaths plummeted. We're going to look at this chunk in two parts: child deaths and plummeted. Let's look at the first chunk, child deaths. What is this phrase about? Child deaths refer to the number of children who died in Mabuya because of the polluted water. This is a noun phrase. Let's look at the next chunk, plummeted. Plummeted literally means to fall straight down at a high speed. Here, the author uses plummeted in a figurative way to help us realize that an extremely large number of children died in Mabuya before the water solution was implemented, and that there were significantly fewer children dying after the water solution. Plummeted can be visualized on a graph like we did with dropped. You can see on the graph how the child deaths plummeted. Let's read the next chunk. And many girls who no longer had to spend hours every day carrying water. We're going to look at this chunk in two parts. And many girls who no longer had to spend hours every day carrying water. Our first chunk is many girls. What is this chunk about? This chunk is about a large number of girls. This is another noun phrase. It has an adjective many to describe the noun girls, creating a noun phrase. Let's look at the next part of the chunk. who no longer had to spend hours every day carrying water. Why did the writer write this adjective clause? The round brackets are called parentheses and are used to add information that is not necessary to the meaning of the sentence. The information helps emphasize or clarify certain things. In this case, the parentheses are used to emphasize or even celebrate the fact that the girls who used to spend hours of their day carrying water no longer need to. The clause in parentheses gives more detailed information about the many girls in the first part of the chunk. It is considered an adjective clause because it describes the girls in the first part of the chunk. Let's read the final chunk. Entered school for the first time. What did the many girls from our previous chunk do? That's right. They were able to go to school for the first time. For the first time tells us that they had never been in school before. How would the meaning change if for the first time was replaced with again? That's right. It would signal that the girls had been to school before and they are now returning. Pause the video to answer the next question on your notebook paper. How do you think the girls might have felt upon entering school for the first time? Again, how do you think the girls might have felt upon entering school for the first time? Go ahead and pause the video now to answer the question on your notebook paper and come back when you're done. Now that we've broken the sentence up and know what each chunk means, it's time to reconstruct the sentence. As a result, diarrhea rates dropped to almost zero. Child deaths plummeted, and many girls who no longer had to spend hours every day carrying water entered school for the first time. Now it's your turn to read the sentence out loud. That was great reading. Can you put the sentence in your own words? Pause the video so that you can write the sentence in your own words. Think about the meanings of each different chunk. Great job. Here is the sentence that I wrote. Because of the solution to Mabuya's water pollution problem, hardly anyone became sick or died from the dirty water, and girls could begin school instead of collecting water. It's time to reflect on our learning. I can understand and practice using complex English language structures. I can use linking words and phrases to connect opinion and reasons. I can explain the literal and non-literal meanings of words and phrases. Has your mastery of these learning targets improved? Rate yourself again. Think about what part of the lesson helped you the most. Thank you so much for watching the Day 28 video Complex Text, a Language Dive. Don't forget to tune in to more All Block videos.